Hello, Jules de Groot here again. This is the fourth of my video casts, and what I really wanted to talk about this time was sleep. Sleep is often a thing that people really struggle with, and when they come to see us in our occupational health clinics, quite often people have been sleeping poorly for a long time, and that can really exacerbate their poor mood, and in some cases it makes them feel very exhausted, and what we know from research is it makes people less able to cope. It can sometimes make them more paranoid in their thinking, more negative in their thinking. That negative spiralling that I talked to you about last time in the reframing, and also in the principles about the helpful mindful meditation. So what I wanted to concentrate on is really thinking about things that can really help us with sleep. And obviously many of them again you will know. I'd really like to reference back two of my previous video casts, and the first one, the mindful meditation one, I think is really in terms of thinking about sleep, and doing some breathing exercises in the way I discussed, particularly perhaps the mindful meditation 40-minute exercise, the body scanning exercise, can be really good for helping with sleep. And doing that and listening to music. Now, music sounds like a very simple thing and something that might not be very effective, but actually what happens is the rhythm of your brain gets used to the music. So what happens is if you listen to the music and it's music you like, and it's a CD that turns off, because actually leaving it on can really make it that it wakes you up later in the night. But if you play the same music every night, fairly relaxing music, it can be anything, it doesn't have to be well music or special relaxation music or anything like that, but actually if you turn it on when you go to bed and you start to go to sleep to that music, the research evidence is that it helps soothe your brain rhythm, and it helps settle your brain rhythm, and it a bit like Pavlov's dogs, where he rang the bell and fed the dogs, and rang the bell and fed the dogs, and they anticipated dinner. So very simple principle, but the principle is it's part of a learnt behaviour, learnt pattern. So if you start to go to sleep to that music, then your brain will anticipate settling into that rhythm as you go to sleep. It works very well with children. I've done it with my children alongside a meditation, which I might just finish with actually, because it's a rather nice little meditation, I think. I don't want it to be a bit too out there for some people, but I think with children it's quite a nice one. Anyway, so listening to music can really help soothe your brain, and it becomes part of learnt behaviour, and with the breathing it can really help settle your brain. So I think that for me is one of the key things. And then if you wake up in the night and have it on very low, again that helps settle your brain rhythm. One of the key things about restless wakeful sleeps is that people tend to get up, and whilst I wouldn't advocate lying in bed getting frustrated with yourself, actually getting up, turning on the light stops the melatonin in your brain, which helps you go to sleep. So that's very important. Now, obviously, if you need a nightlight so you're not going to trip up on something or your children, then have that. But essentially, it is about not turning on the light and not engaging in something new. So what can happen, and with children as well, and many of you will know this, is if one starts to get into a habit of it, or your children start to get into a habit of getting up in the middle of the night, and then you start to engage with them and eat, perhaps have a drink, but although you know that's a bit of a moot point, but certainly engaging with them, certainly playing with them, any of those kind of things, and you getting up, reading books, switching on the television, those kind of things, they stimulate your brain, and what happens is your brain wakes up, and then you have more difficulty going back to sleep. So doing something that is unstimulating is very important, and that brings me on to the next thing, and that is not engaging with technology until late at night. A lot of us working. I think one of the things we have to really watch during this time of being at home is overworking, sitting for hours and hours at our computer. There's always more work to do. And whilst, you know, it's good to be working, it's productive, it gives you a sense of self-worth, hopefully you're linking with your teams, all those kind of positive things that work can bring us, it can be a negative in the sense that what we can do is work too much and too late, and then have the computer on or our phones on, and we're engaging with those things till late at night, and that's overstimulating our brain. So quiet time before you go to sleep, the same with your children. And a restful time. And if you have real problems with sleep, a routine can be very helpful. So perhaps having a shower, washing away the difficulties of the day, having a soothing bath, using essential oils, lavender, bergamot and vetiver are very effective essential oils which you can burn in your room or have in your bath, and they smell very nice. And rose geranium as well, that's a very effective mix. Lavender, bergamot and rose geranium is lovely, but obviously you have to like those smells, because some people don't like those smells or don't get on with essential oils. And then doing things like thinking about those kind of negative thinking spirals. So to go back to that point about thinking about positive things, so 3 positive things at the beginning and end of every day is always very, very helpful if you can, and they can be very tiny things. So when you go to sleep, thinking about it may be about what you've achieved, but not what you haven't achieved. I think that's really important. And thinking about it could be something very simple. It could be something in your work, having a nice conversation with somebody. It could be something at home, cooking a nice dinner, being on a nice walk, really appreciating those things. But what happens is if you appreciate those things before you go to sleep, it sets your hormones and the filters of your brain differently overnight. Whereas if one is thinking about very negative things, they're the things that tend to play on one's mind. Now, if people are in a great deal of difficulty, dreams can be helpful because they play out and help our brain manage those. So the deeper levels of sleep in dreaming help us manage those kind of difficulties. But thinking about positive things before you go to sleep, as well as that kind of routine, a darkened room and a nice room, and a room that you like going to, that is pleasant for you, your bed's nicely made up, that it's a restful place. So those kind of things are very important. Not eating too late at night, having some exercise in the day, all that kind of thing. So, but the main thing for me is the positive thinking, the breathing exercises, and the music, I think, are really helpful. My colleague Francesca Hayward has also put lots of further information on our blog. Again, health, safety and well-being, what's on. So please look at that, and that will reinforce some things I'm saying and some additional very helpful advice. Okay, thank you. Stay safe, keep well, and again, wish you all the best. We wish you all the best. Thank you. Bye. I did say in my last video cast just now that I would introduce to you a short mindful a meditation for children. So actually, as a separate feature, if you wanted to look at this, the one I used to do with my children is imagining a heart. You imagine a heart and all the people you love in your heart, and then an angel comes to take you to a special place, and the special place is a garden, and you go outside the garden, and outside is a tree. You hang all your worries on the worry tree outside, and then you go into the garden and explore the garden. And the garden can be green grass, it can be lovely flowers. Think about the flowers, what the flowers look like, what colours they are, what the petals are like, whether there are cricket areas or football areas, or there's a barbecue and there's places to play, or lovely hedges, the beautiful trees, and then just spending time really looking around the garden. And that's the very short, but I found very effective with our children, meditation I used to do with them when they used to go to bed. Okay, thank you.